Hello, my name is Yeji, otherwise known as ANdmadeco, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today, I want to go over everything that I knit in September, as well as what I'm currently working on, and a few plans and acquisitions that I've had since my last sit-down video. Before we jump into the knitting, I've had quite a few questions about how my sister managed to fit all of the yarn from my previous video of everything that my sister brought me from Scandinavia into her suitcase when bringing it back to the United States. And I want to show you what she did. So she brought everything in this duffel bag. It's not a huge duffel bag, but this fit quite a lot of yarn and it is around this thick. Of course, when it's filled, it gets thicker and rounder, and it's not a stretchy material, it's a nylon material, I think. So it's not stretchy or anything, but she was able to stuff this to the brim. I'll have a picture of this duffel bag stuffed. And within this duffel bag, she also had 3 of these, which is a vacuum seal bag. And it's quite large. So she was able to vacuum seal a lot of the yarn with my dad before putting it in this duffel bag. And then there were also a couple of skeins that were just stuffed within all the corners and everything that the vacuum seal bags didn't manage to reach. So she was able to bring back everything in this one duffel bag. So if you are a knitter and you are thinking, or a crocheter or a fiber enthusiast, and you are thinking of going somewhere and buying a lot of fiber, I think that it's completely possible to fit quite a bit of material in just a small duffel bag as this one. It was quite heavy. It wasn't super heavy, but it was quite heavy. And I'm not sure of the brand of the duffel bag, but this vacuum seal bag is by Vacbird, and I'm pretty sure you could get it on Amazon or wherever you would find vacuum sealed bags. And with this method, some of the labels were slightly crinkled or folded, but none of the yarn was damaged, and I'm just really grateful to have all of the yarn in my hand, and just so grateful that she was able to use this method to bring that quantity of yarn to me. So jumping into everything I knit in September, anything that I've already talked about in episode 41 in my previous sit-down video, I'll have the video linked in the description, and I'll have a photo of the finished object as well as mention who the designer is, but I won't go into too much detail about the object in this video. So starting off the month strong, I finished Harper Vest by Sandisgarn for Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, and this was a sample knit for Tea Cozy Yarn Shop. I love how this turned out. It was light, fluffy, and it was just so nice. I highly recommend watching the video or watching my project vlog on this vest if you are interested in learning more about it. And my second finished item was the Stripe Overload Cardi by Spectacle Strict, or Me Furring, and I buddy knit this with my friend June at june.knits on Instagram, and I also just love this cardigan and have worn it a couple of times since finishing it. And the last finished object that I've already talked about is Professor Fungi by Sarah Shira, and this was a gift knit for my sister's mother-in-law. And so my younger sister's mother-in-law, the sister that brought me all the yarn, so I'm really happy to be able to do something for her, and just so cute. I highly recommend this pattern as well if you are up for quite a bit of knitting and a really fun project that keeps you engaged. It's definitely not a mindless project though. And now we'll get into everything that I finished since my last sit down video, and the first of which I'm wearing. This is Finch Sweater by Del Baudry, and this is a test knit. So this test knit is running until the end of October, which means that I think this pattern will come out mid-November. And mid to end November is when the designer said it would come out, and so I'm really excited to have finished the sweater. This is an all over half fisherman's rib sweater, and everything is knit completely flat, even the sleeves. So the back is first knit, and then you pick up for the shoulders, knit the front flat, and pick up for the sleeves, knit the sleeves flat, and then you seam everything. I seam from the bottom up, so you seam everything, and then it's only 2 seams really, because just 2 long seams, and so you seam everything. And I blocked it after I seamed it, but I know that the best practice is to block it first and then seam it. But I just made sure to leave enough slack in my underarm as well as in the sleeves so that there would be no weird pulling. And I also have a project video on this if you are interested in the whole process of making the sweater. And before we jump into some of the basic details, I'll stand up to show you what it looks like up close. So this is what the sweater looks like, and I will turn around. This is where it hits on my body in the back. And so I think it's a really good length, although I cropped it a little bit from what the designer suggested. The sleeves are a tad long for me, so I think if I was to knit this again, I would probably take out a decrease and have the sleeves hit more at my wrist bones. But I know a lot of people like longer sleeves, and it is perfect for the cozier season. So for the basic details of the sweater, I knit a size 2 on a US 6, a 4mm needle, which is suggested in the pattern, and I went a couple needle sizes down for the collar as well as the hem. And the collar you pick up at the end as well. And this is a US 4. I think I used a 3.5mm needle for the hems. This sweater is also super size inclusive in that it goes from 100 to 196 centimeters, which is 100 centimeter of difference. And so it goes from a 30-inch to a 78-inch bust circumference, and there is a recommended positive ease range of around 12 inches. And I can definitely say that this has a lot of positive ease for the size that you knit. The yarn that I use for this is 412 Navy Heather, and it's the Kelburn Woolen Scout. And it is 100%, I think this is Peruvian wool. And so this is very beautiful. And I love the coloring of this yarn. There is a lot of red in this navy, so it pops as very much a royal navy. It doesn't lean green, it leans very blue. And so I'm very happy with how this turned out. And I just love this yarn. It's very cozy and it feels light on the body, but I used over 4.5 skeins for my size. And so it's over 450 grams, and it's not a super lightweight sweater, but it feels very fluffy and airy. And that has a lot to do with the stitch as well. So this is all knit in half fisherman's rib. And the reason that it's all knit flat is so that you could just knit one row instead of having to worry about purling. And so one row is knitting half fisherman's rib, which is just knitting one down below in your knit stitch, knitting your purls as usual, doing that ribbing, and then the other side is just knitting. And so for half the project, you're just knitting, but also this project doesn't grow as fast as you'd expect for other projects, just because you're knitting one stitch below. Half fisherman's rib tends to grow a little slower. And when you first try it on, it's quite short. And then after you block it, everything just blocks out. And I think that some of the holes that you could see around my neckline comes from just having everything relaxed and blocked out. They weren't there before. And I don't think I'm going to go ahead and duplicate stitch or anything within it, because in real life, it's not very apparent, but it's just something that I noticed when I was taking photos and videos, is that it looks a lot more see-through on camera. I think because the camera just catches higher contrast than it does in real life. And I'm really happy with the squishiness, the warmth, and everything of the sweater. And I think that it will be one that I reach for over and over again. And I didn't make any modifications in this test knit except for I cropped the body length a little bit. I think it recommended doing 30 more rows than I did. I did only 96 after the armhole shaping. So for sizes 1 and 2, I think the armhole, there is a few decreases before you join in and knit the body flat down. And then for sizes 3 and 4, I think it's just flat. And I think for the higher sizes, there are a few increases that you have to do before knitting. And I think that's just to prevent too much fabric under the arm when you put your arm down. But the drop on the sleeve is also so far down that I think that it's not uncomfortable under the arm regardless. So there is quite a bit of positive ease in the sleeve as well, but it's not huge. It's not one of those sweaters where it's oversized in the body and in the sleeve. I would say that all things considered, the sleeves are more fitted and then the body is very oversized. And I think that was by design, again, to prevent things from, I guess, when you lift up your sleeve, having everything just lift up in a bat wing effect. And also just for your fit preferences, I think if it is something you're looking for in a clean sweater like this, then I would highly recommend doing this pattern, just because I love how it fits and I do appreciate not having a ton of fabric under my arms. The sleeves are a tiny bit long, but I think that was also by design. And I think if you have shorter arm length or you want it to be more cropped, then you could always definitely adjust that. The decreases for the sleeves do come a little more rapidly because it's 4 decreases per decrease section. And so they are spaced out, but when it does happen, it is a little more rapid. And for me, it wasn't that bad because when I saw the decreases, that's when I knew to seam those together. And it was kind of like a sanity check of just making sure my seams lined up to the end. And so the smart person would have probably put in stitch markers and stuff to make sure that all the seams lined up. But for me, I was just kind of eyeing it based on where the decreases happened in the sleeves, and I think it worked out fine. And mattress stitching, seaming it wasn't an issue at all. I don't think you can tell where I mattress stitch based on where it hits in under the arms. And so I'm really happy that happened as well. And I think that the decreases in the underarm also happened really nicely, where even though you could tell that there are decreases in some of these parts, it doesn't look lumpy, and when I mattress stitched it, it doesn't seem like there is a hole in any of these places. So all of that to say that I enjoyed making the sweater, although it did grow slower and took longer. I would highly recommend the sweater if you are looking for an all-over half fisherman's rib sweater. I know that Andrea Mowry has her birch sweater that's in fingering weight, and I have the pattern, but I've always been kind of hesitant about knitting the sweater because it's all done in fingering weight. And I think that that definitely has its pros and all of the qualities in a fingering weight sweater. But if you are looking to make a DK weight sweater that is squishy and has half fisherman's rib, very warm, I would highly recommend this pattern when it does come out, especially with the size inclusivity. It is a smaller designer, and I'm really happy to have tested for Dalbodre. And as I said before in a previous video, Dalbodre seems to have a very positive presence online, and I'm really happy to support that. And the next two finished objects I don't have here to show you, so I'll definitely put in some images. The first of which is Poppy the Chicken by Jessica Reeves Potas, or Mama in a Stitch. And this is a free pattern online, so you're able to knit Poppy the Chicken, and it's a very simple pattern. I was able to knit it in a few hours, and I just love Poppy the Chicken so much. I know that I'm going to knit more of these. I originally bought the kit from Ikigai Fibers at Flock Fiber Festival, so I was so happy to be able to use some of the yarn that I got at Flock. And the yarn that came in the kit was Ikigai Fibers Paka Chunky in the color Raspberry Twist. And I chose the red color. They had a few color options. I chose the red color because I love it. And within that kit, the parts for the beak as well as the crest, crown, comb, the flappy thing on top of the head also came in that kit, as well as the eyes. And so I didn't really need to buy anything. I already had the poly beads to fill up the chicken as well as the poly fill at home. So I was really happy to make this. And I've since gifted it to my sister, my younger sister, the one who again brought all of the yarn. And so it's living in her house, and I think she was very happy to receive Poppy. I'm not 100% sure of the needles that are recommended in the Mama in a Stitch, the original version, because Ikigai Fibers also had a few modifications that they put at the back of their little card for this kit, and I followed the modifications because I wanted to make the most of my yarn. And so I used a US 10.5, which is a 6.5 millimeter needle for the base, and then a US 9, which is a 5.5 millimeter for the rest of the chicken, the body of the chicken, as recommended in the version from Ikigai Fibers. And Ikigai Fibers also had you cast on 20 stitches instead of 10 to make it roughly 20 or twice as large compared to the original version. So my chicken is, I think, around twice as large in terms of the base. So I'm not sure what that would make in terms of the actual stitch count for the body. I haven't compared the two, but if you are to make the original chicken, the Poppy the Chicken, then it would probably turn out a little smaller than my version, but it should look the same. I want to make more poppies in the future, and I have plans to make more poppies. I think I can make it with some of my leftover yarns that I have. It takes around 70 grams of yarn for the large version, but I think for the smaller version, I could probably get around with 50 grams. And the suggested yarn weight is a bulky weight yarn at around 50 meters for 50 grams. And so 1 meter per gram. I think I can find some of those in what I currently have. And so I'm really excited to make more poppies in the future, and I really liked using the Ikigai Fibers Paka Chunky. It is 75% wool, 25% alpaca, so it felt really nice to knit, and it was so soft, and I'm just really happy with the finished object, and just having such a fast, satisfying project that also was just so satisfying to finish, and that I was proud of the finished object for, I think doesn't come too often, and so I was super happy with this project. And my last finished object for the month of September was the Selma sleep suit by Petite Knit, and this is a sample knit for La Mercerie, and I just sent it off to them yesterday, so they haven't received it yet. It's somewhere in mail limbo currently, but I'm really happy to have completed this object. For this, I knit the 3 to 6 month size in a US 6 4mm needle as suggested, and it is a little tight. It is a little dense with the yarn that I used, and the yarn I used was the suggested yarn in the pattern, which La Mercerie has sent me, and I've sent back, so I don't have the yarn here to show you, and that yarn is Camaro Snuff Nug in the color gray beige or gra beige. And the color for that is 7315 in case you wanted to make the exact same thing. But I really enjoyed making the Selma sleep suit. It took quite a bit longer than I thought it would originally take. I was thinking maybe 4 to 5 days. I think it took closer to a week. And that's because there is, I think, deceptively a lot of knitting. And as I said, the density was quite dense with the fabric. So the Camaro Snug is around 110 meters for 50 grams. So when you just do the calculation, it comes to around a DK weight yarn, but then the actual category for the yarn is an Aran weight because it is a chainette yarn. It's a chainette in terms of the yarn is in a chain and then there's fiber blown into the yarn. And so it was super snuggly, super soft, and it was such a nice yarn to make the Selma sleep suit with. But just knitting it on the US 6, the 4mm needle, meant that the fabric was quite dense, and being all garter stitch, I think it was nice to just keep knitting and knitting. So when I started knitting with this yarn, I think my gauge was a little tight, but then as I got used to knitting with it, my gauge loosened up and I was able to meet gauge in the pattern and everything. But it was one of those where I think there was deceptively a lot more knitting than what you would think in a pattern like this. Total, I think I used maybe 6.3 skeins of the Camaro Snug, which is a 50-gram ball each, and I really enjoyed making it. It was so fun because the actual construction of it is quite simple. You just knit a square at the top of the hood and then you pick up for the sides and you knit the hood, and then it's a raglan down the sides, and then you do the arms as well as the legs. But because it is a baby knit, it also doesn't take that long. I knit the 3 to 6 month size, so the body kind of was the longest part, and then once I was done the body, then doing the legs and the arms, it was no issue at all. There is quite a bit of seaming because everything is seamed in terms of after you knit the body, to keep with the garter stitch, to keep just knitting, the sleeves were just knit back and forth, and so the sleeves were knit flat past the body, and then the legs were also knit flat. And so after I knit all that and knit the decreases, then I seamed up everything. There was quite a lot of seaming this month compared to all the other months this year, I think. But it was a super fun knit, and it was a baby knit, so also the seams, there were no places where the seams could misalign because you're only seaming this much per section. And so it was really fun, and I'm really happy to have had that made as well as blocked and now sent to La Mercerie, so hopefully they get it sometime soon. And my niece is modeling the Selma sleep suit. She's just over 2 months old, but she wears a 3 to 6 month because she's over 90 something percentile in height, and so I was so happy just to put her in, take some photos, and then quickly ship it out. Those are all the finished objects that I have for September, which is really exciting because I was able to sample knit twice as well as finish the stripe overload Cardi, which I've been wanting to do for so long, and also test knit. So I'm really excited for October though in terms of what's coming up, because I also have a lot of knitting plans that I included in my fall knitting plans that I wasn't able to get to in September. So hopefully in October we'll be able to get to it. And one of those objects is a current work in progress, so I'll show it to you now. And what I'm currently working on right now is Relax Tee by Amy Shure, and I know that Stephanie from Edible Thoughts Makes has made a video about the 3 relax tees that she's made so far, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from her relax tees, so this might be repetitive to you if you watch her videos, but I also love just how it's coming out. Thank you, Stephanie, for everything. Going over the basic details, I'm making this with Wandering Flock Cotton Lino in the color lilac as well as navy, and I bought the Wandering Flock Cotton Lino based on one of Stephanie's versions because I loved it so much. And my patterning that I'm doing is just large chunks of stripes. Whenever there is a purl ridge, I change the stripes, and I'm really happy with how it's coming out. And that's also based on another one of Stephanie's versions. And so I am so excited to be able to get to this. And this was on my wish list from I think sometime in the summer. I just wasn't able to get to it. It's now very much fall and it's kind of cold outside, but I still want to finish this t-shirt to have for maybe next season, or even to just wear under things in this current season. And I am knitting the size 2, but I did go up a needle size, so I'm doing it on a US 5, a 3.75mm needle, so it is quite drapey. And the reason I chose to go up a needle size is because I only have one of each of these yarns, and so I wanted to use up all of the navy, and I wanted to make sure that it was long enough, as well as I just wanted to get a little bit more out of the yarn in terms of meterage, and I think that having a looser gauge helps do that. And so I know I'll run out of the navy. The lilac I'm not worried about, but the navy, I think I'm currently on the lilac, and I think I'll have one more stripe of lilac, then one more stripe of navy, lilac, and then I'll put the ribbing in the navy again, hopefully, if we can get to that part. So we'll see. I still have around 30 grams of the navy, so I should be okay, but I will see. I measured how much of the lilac I had just before starting this stripe that I did maybe 20 stitches on, just so that I can see how much a stripe takes and everything, and we can adjust afterwards. But I think that this will be a little more cropped than in the pattern, and I hopefully can get a garment made of 200 grams of yarn, and I think I can do it. With everything being one size larger in terms of needle size, my ribbing is also one size larger. I did it with a US 3, a 3.25, and as Stephanie has suggested, for the bind off, when they say bind off loosely, I bound off with a larger needle so that I could have it be a little more even and not having to worry about binding off loosely. So I did bind off with a US 6, a 4mm needle, and it's quite stretchy. So I'm really excited. I think there was another stripe you were supposed to do before doing the bind off, but I wanted to do the bind off and the hem with the navy color. So I decided to make the sleeves a little shorter as well. And I think that'll help with some yarn management, because I know Stephanie used 2.3 skeins of yarn in her version, and she also knit the size B, but she knit it with a needle size, the proper needle size, or a needle size down from it. So I think with my current modifications, I'll be okay with just 2 of these skeins, but I'll also keep you updated on that. And the Relax Tee goes from a 31 to a 60 inch to fit upper bust measurement, as well as a 31 to or a 30 to a 66 full bust measurement. And it does come with instructions for bust starts. So if anybody needs bust starts, it I think has 4 different versions based on what you need. I won't be doing any bust starts because at this point in my life, my upper bust is basically the same size as my full bust, if not very, very, very similar, and so I won't need it. But if you do need it, then it's already written in, the instructions are written into the pattern, so I would highly encourage you look at the pattern. And I think Stephanie said that there is also instructions for A-line shaping as well, but I also won't do A-line shaping because I know that this will already be a cropped garment just based on the amount of yarn I have and the length I wanted at. And this is a compound raglan, which it's my first time doing a compound raglan where the raglan shaping differs for every certain number of rows so that you get more of an S shape and you don't get a lot of fabric in your underarm, and the fit of it is just better. And so I'm really excited. I haven't tried this on yet, so I'm really excited to see how that will fit my body, and I'll keep you updated on that as well. But I was able to get through this. I think I got through maybe 3/4 of the way through the raglan, and then I saw Stephanie's video and she said that there's a tracker, and the file, if you buy the pattern online, then it comes in a zip file, and the file has a large version or a large format version for people who need that accessibility, as well as a row tracker where every row it tells you how many stitches you should have increased by for your body and your sleeves. And I think it's so useful. I highly recommend it going off the row tracker because just looking at the instructions, it kind of does get wordy. You have to find your size, and I thought that it's not a very mindless knit in terms of raglans and how raglans go. But I think with the row tracker, it's just become so much more simple and so much more easy to follow in that way. So I highly recommend getting or printing out the row tracker and keeping a track of it. Or what you could do, or is what I did, was just screenshotting it or having it on my phone and then just marking it off every time I did a row. And so that helped a lot at the end. My next video in 2 weeks, probably October 18th-ish, the Relax Tee should be a finished object, and before then I'll probably have a project vlog on it as well. And I also want to go over a couple of plans before I get into acquisitions that I have. And so the first one is with this, it's the Lime Brand's Fisherman's Wool, and I have 4 of these balls. This is huge. It comes with 465 yards per 227 grams, and it's a worsted to an Aran weight. And so I think that I'll be using this for my fireplace sweater, which is a test knit for Madeline of Madeline Knits, but that is due in December, so I'm not sure whether I'll get to it in October or maybe November, but knowing me, I'll probably try to get to it in October so I don't feel rushed. And it's an all over beautiful cabled sweater that I decided to sign up for the test knit for, and I'm really excited. It also looks to be an oversized sweater, so we'll see how that goes. But I think that I know a lot of people in the test group are already getting started, and so just seeing everybody's photos and progress pictures makes me want to get started on this. I'll have more information on the sweater once I get started, but I thought that I would let you know that this is something that I'm looking at, and this yarn might not be thick enough to meet gauge because I think the sweater is made on a 5.5mm needle or a US 9, and so I might pair this with some Drops Kid silk that I have in a white color. Then it would also be still be a very affordable sweater compared to some of the other sweaters that I have. And so this is Lime Baron's Fisherman's Wool. I think you can get 3 of these balls for I think probably around $35 in the United States. And so I would say that if you are on a budget, then I've worked with this before and I really enjoyed it. So it's not soft, but I would highly recommend it for anything like jackets, oversized sweaters and such for this upcoming winter season. And another plan that has been a little more set in stone is this, which is Yellholt. And I was corrected in my comments. I think I said it was Heelholt, but it's pronounced Yellholt. And you don't pronounce the H when it's in front of a J or a V, I think is what the comment said. So thank you so much. So the Yellholt Handbark Garn, this is in the color number 2. And I said that I want to make either the Sibylla cardigan by Cookie the Knitter or Gale by Sachiko Bergen. And then my friend Catherine saw the video and she said that she also has the exact same yarn and would like to make the Sibylla cardigan. So we will be buddy knitting the Sibylla cardigan by Cookie the Knitter. I'm really excited to use this yarn into that sweater, and I know that Catherine is as well. So we'll be buddy knitting this, and it will be a very long buddy knit. So we'll start it in October, and then we have an end date of end of December. So we have, again, milestones put in because I'm very no chill like that. So when the back yoke will be done, when the front panels will be done and everything. So I'm really excited to knit this with Catherine. I think it'll be very fun. And I'm just very excited to be able to use this yarn and put it in a project that I've been meaning to knit and also do it with a friend. So I will keep you updated on the progress of the sweater or this cardigan, but this will be a longer term knit, so you might see it a couple times before it's completely finished. And speaking of Scandinavian acquisitions, last week I showed you this, which is the Sandscarn Double Sunday in the color 4672, which is called Blackberry Juice. And so I had this in mind. The pattern that I showed you to go with it was the Ghostwood Mittens by Kiyomi Bergen, which I think is what I'm decided on. But regardless, I got an accompanying yarn to go with it. And so I got this yarn at Emerald City Yarns, which is a new yarn store that just opened in Seattle. And they had their soft opening in September, at the end of September, and then they fully opened October 1st. So they're now open for you to go to. And it is, if you are in the area, and the yarn store is in a really beautiful space. It's very clean, very open. I have to say that some of the shelves are empty. They have shelves there, but they're just empty. I think they're bringing in more yarns as they continue to stay open and be in business. And so I'm really excited to see what else they will bring in. I think compared to other yarn stores in the area, because Tea Cozy Yarn, there's Tea Cozy Yarn in Ballard, and then there's now Emerald City Yarn in the Greenwood area, and then Acorn Street Shop in the near University Village, which is the U District, and all of them are not that far from each other. But I think they all have very different qualities. Tea Cozy Yarn has Sandisgarn, Rauma. They have a lot of sweater quantities. I got the Kelborn Woolens from Tea Cozy, so they have a lot of the same dye lots and everything. And so I would highly recommend going to Tea Cozy if you are looking for sweater quantities. And then Acorn Street Shop has a lot of yarn, and they also have Knitting for Olive. And then Emerald City Yarns, from what I noticed in the initials, just from my eyes, and this is not said by anybody, but just from what I've observed, I think they're also setting themselves apart by bringing in more hand-dyed yarns. And so they have seismic yarns. I think they have Yarn Matter. They have a couple of hand dyers like Hazelnuts and such. So this is not hand-dyed. This is the Barocco Ariel. They also have Barocco, and they have lemony and such. So if you are in the area, then I would highly recommend checking it out. But I did manage to pick up Barocco Ariel in the color 3460, and that was right after I've uploaded, or I was currently probably editing this video while so I knew that it was a yarn that I wanted to pair with it, and I think that they will be beautiful together in terms of making mittens, or if I decide to make cats, I think it'll be beautiful together as well. Barocco Ariel is quite soft. It is 65% mohair and 35% silk. Also at Emerald City Yarns, I picked up this, which is Hazelnut's Artisan Sock, and whenever I see Hazelnut's Artisan Sock, I like to pick up 1 or 2 skeins of it. I just picked up one, and this is in the color Trestle because I really enjoy this yarn. It is a plush sock yarn, and so this is 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon. It's 400 yards for 125 grams. And so most yarns are 400 yards for 100 grams. This is 400 yards for 125 grams, which means that it's a little more thick. And I really like how it knits up, how it feels. Even though it is superwash, I do enjoy how it looks too. So, and just how it knits up and how it blocks out. So it's a heavy fingering weight yarn. I would highly recommend the Hazelnut's Artisan Sock Base. This I bought to put in a giveaway or to give to a friend in a future date. I don't have anybody set in mind yet, but I just know that I like collecting Hazelnut's yarns because it is local in Seattle. And so whenever I see people from out of state, then I like to gift them Hazelnut's yarn if possible. So this will be in a pile to go into the next giveaway or something. So I'm really excited for this as well. And I really liked Hazelnut's yarns in that it is tonal, or most of their yarns are tonal. I think they do have some speckled yarns, but there is some coloring that you can see in here. So there are some red spots in this brown, and this brown is pretty trendy. So I'm really excited for whoever receives this yarn to receive it in a future date. And also at Emerald City Yarns, they of course had the Susan Bates handy tool as well. You can find this at Cozy as well. I'm not sure about Acorn Street Shop. You can find it at Michael's. And I've talked about this so many times now, but this has a crochet hook on one side and the knitting needle, a pointy needle on one side. And I just love to give this out to people as well. So I just bought a bunch at Emerald City Yarns, and I'm pretty sure when I see it next time, I'll probably buy a bunch more. I'm handing it out like candy at this point, and basically it's just so nice to have in your notions pouch for when you have to do 3 needle bind offs, when you've lost a stitch and it's kind of traveled down. It's easy to pick it up with the crochet hook side. And I think that I'm probably preaching to the choir here, because whenever I mention this, a lot of people say that they also really love this as well. And I've just discovered it in the summer, this summer, so I'm kind of late to the game, but I'm really happy to see this wherever and pick a couple up. So that's everything that I picked up at Emerald City Yarns. And another plan that I have in October that's also not set in stone, but one that I would like to get to, is to set aside a week to 10 days to 2 weeks of knitting just hats, and mainly hats probably for other people, because I personally don't wear a lot of hats even during the winter. But I would love to just knit a lot of hats, or I'm not sure how many I could get done in 2 weeks, but I would love to knit some hats for people in my life, and just to have, so that when gift knitting season approaches, and it's soon approaching in December, I have a pile of hats to give to people. But we'll see on where we land with that, because as I said, I have so many plans and I just want to knit so many things, and I've recently gotten a lot of yarn and a lot of garment quantities, and I just want to knit all the things, and it feels like I don't have enough time to knit it all. And with that, that's everything that I have planned for this video. I feel like the last part got kind of chaotic because there's just so much I want to knit, and I'm very excited for knitting during the season when it is getting colder. So I hope you have a great week, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in a couple of weeks for my next sit down video, and in between for all of the project vlogs that come up. Thank you so much for watching. If you can, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.